Okay, last part, phase shift. Phase shift is the horizontal translation of the graph, how much it moved. Okay, write the cosine function as a phase shift of the sine function, meaning you can see that the sine cosine are pretty much exactly the same, right? Except if you moved one, it would be on top of the other one. So this one says write cosine as a phase shift of sine. So basically cosine of x is equal to sine of x plus what? Oh. Okay, well, let's look at the graph. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's not guess and let's look at the graph. Okay, so this is sine graph plus pi over 2. Okay, if you take the sine graph, move it to the left pi over 2, it looks exactly like cosine. All right, next one, you can do the practice. Write the sine function as a phase shift of the cosine function. So sine is equal to cosine plus what? Or minus what? It doesn't, let's just put here, I don't know what it is. How do you move the cosine graph so it looks like sine graph? You might have to look at your graph because, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. So you're going to have to look at your sine and cosine graph. We move cosine so that it looks like sine. Yeah, minus pi over 2. Now remember that you don't have to just move this direction, right? You could also move the other direction, but your phase shift is different. Yeah, 3 pi over 2 because they add up to 2 pi. Okay, so there are more than one way to move. And then you can move even more, another 2 pi to line up on each other. All right? Okay. Okay, we're on page 9. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to graph the normal function, and then what you're going to do is we're going to do some transformation and all that stuff. Okay, first let's graph sine. Well, actually, before we do that, here are some tips on graphing sine and cosine. First, you always want to find the amplitude of the function, whatever a is, the absolute value of a. Next, you want to find the period. And then you want to figure out if we're moving it left and right, up and down somewhere. So then you can redraw the axis. Then what you're going to do is you're going to divide that period into quarters. So break into half and then break into half again. And then we're going to start graphing. Sine graph starts from 0 and goes up and then down, down, up. Cosine starts on the top and goes down, down, up, up. Okay. All right. I don't think anybody's listening anymore. Everyone's just like zoning out. So we're just going to start. Okay. Sine x. What is the amplitude? No. 1. Not the height. Amplitude is 1. Okay, period is 2 pi over b. 2 pi. All right, are we moving this left and right or up and down? No. No, there's no phase shift. There's no vertical movement. So we're going to start at the normal place of sine, which is 0. Okay, so what you're going to do is start from 0. We're going to mark one period. One period is 2 pi. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to break that whole period into half. So we're going to make another mark at pi. Next, we're going to break that interval, the half interval, another half. So we're going to break into quarters. So at the pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. All right, next thing we're going to do is mark the amplitude, 1 and -1, because we know we're going to go up to 1, go down to -1. All right, because this is the sine graph, we're going to start at 0, 0. And sine graph goes up first and then down. So at all of those marks, we're going to draw just the points and then connect them later. So at the first mark, which is pi over 2, we're going to go up. And then it comes back down. and then down again, back up. So this is one cycle or one period, and then we're going to connect the dots. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing on the left-hand side. Remember the left-hand side is a reflection, so you're going to kind of go the opposite direction. So this goes down first. Okay, very important. You need to mark the intervals first before you connect the dots. A lot of people just randomly draw, and then they get to a point they don't know what they're drawing anymore. Gary, I think you need to draw the interval first. Okay, so draw the interval first. Yeah, don't just randomly draw the graph. All right, let's practice sine first. Let's go down to here. So easy one, 2 sine x. It's pretty much exactly the same, except it's going to go up to 2 and down to -2. So try that. Okay, 2 sine x. So amplitude is 2, period is 2 pi. So we're going to go up to 2, down to -2. 2 pi is the period, break into half again. Start at 0, goes up, and then down, down, up. So this is the sine graph. Do the same on the left. All right, the one on the right is the same. 5 sine 2x. So amplitude is 5, period is pi. Okay, so we're going to go all the way up to 5, down to -5. 1 period is pi, break into half again. We're going to start at 0, goes up, down, down, up. And then you can do it again. Up, down, down, up. Okay. All right. So we're going to have to make sure some of you get a little more practice on graphing. Let's practice cosine. Cosine is exactly the same, except the starting point is different. Okay, so let's go to this cosine graph. Okay, let's see. Murphy, what is the amplitude on this cosine? 1, good. Let's see. Gary, what is the period on this cosine? 2 pi. Okay, so we're going to mark the amplitude 1 and -1. And then we're going to mark 1 period, which is 2 pi. Break into half again. All right, cosine starts where? Does it start at 0, 0, or does it start somewhere else?
1.
Start at 1, so it starts on the top, the highest amplitude. And it's going to go down first, down again, back up. And then it's going to have this dip. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the left-hand side. Down to 0, all the way down to the negative part, back to 0, go to the top. Okay. All right. Let's have you practice the 3 cosine pi x. That one's a little bit tricky because you may not have seen that kind of period before. Okay, so go ahead and do C. All right, so let's take a look at this one. So this amplitude is 3, the period is 2 pi over pi, so that's 2. So we're going to go all the way up to 3 and -3. The pi of the period is 2, so break into half again. Start on the top, goes down, down, up, up. This is 1 period. And if we want to do it again, we go to 4, break into half again, goes down, down, up, up. And then we can do that for a long time. Okay, let's do one harder one where we're going to have phase shift and we're going to have vertical shifts. So let's just find an empty space. Okay, let's do y equals, let's do something harder. Negative cosine 2 pi. Let's do plus pi. No, I did this wrong. 2x plus pi minus 1. Okay, so we're going to have some phase shift and vertical translations. First, we need to figure out what is the phase shift. If there is a number in front of x, which is the b, and that b value is not 1, we need to factor it. So this is going to be cosine 2 times x plus pi over 2 minus 1. Okay, now we can see the phase shift. The phase shift is pi over 2. If you didn't do that, you would have thought it moved pi, but it is not correct. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph this. Before we graph this, let's talk about the amplitude. Let's make sure everyone is with me. So Sunny, what value is amplitude? 1. Okay, and let's see. Okay, Philip, do you know what the period is? No. What number is b? 2. Yeah, so this is going to be 2 pi over b, which is 2 pi over 2, so that's pi. All right, let's go ahead and draw our graph. Okay, so we know that this is going to be pi, and let's just draw some marks. Okay, so pi over 2, just kind of drawing the general graph. So this graph tells us we're going to shift, phase shift is going which direction and by how much? Are we going to go left or right? Left or right? Left by how much? Pi over 2. So what we want to do is draw the new axis at pi over 2. Okay? Next, do we have any vertical movement? Yes. Down 1. Okay, so we are going to go down 1. So I'm going to make some marks here. Okay, so we're going to go down 1. Okay, the red axis is going to be my new axis. I'm going to graph everything from the red and ignore the blue from now on because everything shifted. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. All right, draw the period. So period is pi from this new origin. Right, from this origin, I'm going to move over pi. So that's my 1 period. Break that into half. Break that into half again. Okay? And my amplitude is 1, so I'm going to go up 1 and down 1. Okay, now it's just a simple graph to do because it's just a cosine graph. But this cosine is a little different. It has a negative in front. So where do we actually start on this cosine? Negative 1, yeah, on the bottom. So we're going to start on the bottom. Start from here, goes up, up, down, down. Okay, so very important when you have phase shifts, make sure you factor out the b value first to see what the phase shift actually is. And then you want to move your axis so that it's easier to graph. Okay, and then we can do this for one more period if we want. So we're gonna go all the way over to 3 pi over 2, break into half again, and then I'm gonna go up, up, down, down. Okay, so this is probably like the hardest that you'll see on the graphs. All right. So tomorrow is all graphing practice. All right, let's see. Let's construct a sinusoid. Sinusoid just means sine or cosine. We want this to have a period of pi over 5 and the amplitude of 6. So, and we want it to go through 2, 0. So let's just make it uniform. We're just going to do sine. You can do cosine as well, but let's just all do sine. So we're doing the same thing. Okay, first it says the amplitude is 6. What does that mean on my equation? 6 is what?
First. Before the sun.
Okay, so A is 6. A is 6. Period is pi over 5. The period equation is what? 2 pi over b. So what we're going to do is cross multiply and solve for b. We're going to cross multiply and solve for b. Yeah. So pi times b is equal to 5 times 2 pi. So 10 pi. So b is 10. Okay, bless you. So y equals 6 sine 10x. But the last requirement is that it has to go through 2, 0. So this graph has to touch 2, 0. The question is, does it touch 2, 0 right now? Well, let's see. You guys are good. Okay, so basically, if we just graph this right now, it looks like this. But I want it to go through 2, 0. So it's probably somewhere right there, I think. I don't know. 2 is, I don't know where 2 is actually. 3.14. So maybe 2 is somewhere over here. So what can I do to this graph so it touches 2? There are many ways. What's an easy way? Huh? Move right 2, right? So if I push the graph all the way to the right so that it starts at 2, then it will definitely touch 2, right? So how do I move it right 2?
Plus 2, subtract 2 in the...
Minus 2.
Minus 2, yeah, correct. Now, this is the tricky part. If you want to move 2 only, you need to put this in the parentheses. Okay, because the phase shift is moving right 2. If you just put 10x minus 2, like 10x minus 2, you're only moving 1/5. Okay? Please be careful. So this will be the equation. At least one of the ways to solve this equation. There's many ways to make it go through 2, 0. Okay, let's have you try one. Construct a sinusoid with amplitude 1.5, period pi over 6 through the point 1, 0. Let's also just uniformly do sine x. Go ahead and try this one. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, the amplitude is 1.5. Period is pi over 6, so that is 2 pi over b. All right, pi times b is equal to 12 pi, so b is 12. Okay, so general equation would probably look like 1.5 sine 12x. except that it's not going to go through 1, 0. At least we're not for sure that it will, we don't know for sure that it's going to go through 1, 0. So what we want to do is push this starting point to start at 1, 0. So we are going to do a phase shift. So 1.5 sine 12 times x. And we are going to push it to the right, so -1. Okay.